a distance but within view. 1530s and figuratively apart, withdrawn, without community spirit, with verbs stand, keep, etc. as an adjective. 1600 related aloofly, aloofness, aloofly. Can you put up the like the just direct translation?
Like the definition of it.
Yeah, just pull it off your personal computer. Aloof. No, not friendly or forthcoming, cool and distant, conspicuously uninvolved and uninterested, typically through distaste. Means about standing on a particular kind of side of the ship. But it came to mean conspicuously uninvolved and uninterested. Thank you. I have to go to a meeting, so I'm doing a short presentation before I go. Sorry for skipping out on you, but it got scheduled weeks ago and I have to be there. And I have a short presentation today because I have less time. And it's the ongoing topic of writing your personal constitution. I gave this for people at Salesforce and Google and Intel the other day under the banner of one of our programs called Success Sadhana. It was yesterday, in fact, 12 noon. And so this project of writing your own personal constitution, got interested in this because now Chaitanya Nityanam, when you see me do this, you can change the slide, but don't do it yet. I maybe mentioned to you my sense of awe and appreciation when I saw the United States Constitution. Does anybody know what city the original Constitution of the United States is displayed in? Keshav, you ought to know. Go ahead. You're in the Federal Witness Protection Program. We can't see your
Hare
face.
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
So
Krishna.
since I live like an hour away, so it's in Washington D.C. in the Library of Congress.
And rightly so, right? Have you ever been there to see it?
No, Maharaj.
Well, I went. It's hung on the wall. It's under bulletproof glass. And you can see the original document. And what is it? It's an agreement amongst some who decided to frame the ideas that would govern a country. They came up with their best ideas, they put them on paper, they signed it, and it became a document which still guides the process of the American government after many, many years. Without such an agreement written on paper, it's doubtful whether this system of government would have held together for 250 years. My proposition is we should each have our own constitution. You're a country unto itself, in a sense, because your existence in this world as a human being, and especially as devotees, is highly consequential. And if you take a little time to think about your values, your priorities, and your goals, and you also write them down, then you can have a document that guides you. It also can be amended. Was the United States Constitution ever amended? Advaita Chandra is shaking his head vigorously. And Madhuri Saki is giving thumbs up. And indeed it has been. There are many amendments to it, and you can amend yours also. So what do you think about the idea just in general? I'll take a few comments. Vivaan, you gave a thumbs up. Why do you like the idea? Give me 3 sentences why.
I really like the idea of making a constitution because it ensures that you have a focused track and you're not drifting off to one side or another, and you're able to accomplish all your goals in a timely manner. And I also really like the idea of amending your constitution because your priorities in life might change from time to time as you age, as you have different goals, and as you go into different circumstances. So that amending it can really make sure that you're being most efficient with time.
Well articulated, Vivaan. You look like a statesperson yourself. Okay, part. 3 sentences.
So, a personal constitution can help you maximize the goals and help you have a streamlined way of leading your life. And with that, you can have like a place where you could like jot your ideas down and then, like my brother said, amend them, which can really help you to really concentrate on the ideas that you want the most, that really connects with you deeply. And
Nicely done, part. Very good. Okay, Keshav, 3 sentences.
So Maharaj, I just like the idea of a constitution because it's like a flow chart that is filled with your personal values and what you want to get done and how you want to get it done. So that whenever, even if you're like in a difficult situation and you have a problem, you really don't like, you don't really have a clear guide or route to solving it, then your constitution will help you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because oftentimes things don't go the way we think they should or we're going to go. And if we have a philosophy and we have a guiding document, then we just stick to our process. Very nice. Okay, last one, Arav, 3 sentences.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Shukadev Goswami said that a prolonged life is not as good as one moment of full consciousness. So in that one moment of full consciousness, what we do is we think, and then when we think, we can write down those thoughts, and then those thoughts become what we strive to be. So it's a good idea to write them
That's a
down.
good point. People generally are asked to sign documents or create documents when they're in their right mind. And then later, when they're not in their right mind, maybe disturbed by different circumstances, they can refer to the document. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay. First, a metaphor. The swan. Now, the swan arguably is the most graceful bird. When you see it on the water, it's eye-catching. I saw some swans recently and I enjoyed watching them glide across the water. And then when they got out and walked on the land, they were extremely awkward. So as I put it here, on the water, effortlessly elegant. On the land, they're shockingly awkward. So why did I include this? Because when we're aligned in Dharma, we have clarity, we have energy, as many of you pointed out. There's an ease to the way we enact our duties. We have intuition, we have flow. Some examples of what it feels like when we're aligned properly. And this is when we are in our element. Our Dharma means that we're perfectly aligned with our ultimate purpose of life, and then we're graceful. On the other hand, when we're out of alignment, adharmic, we may be confused, restless, self-doubting, clumsy in our decision making and our relationships even, as though we feel as though life isn't fitting right. So I'm giving this example of how there's a perfect alignment for us, but we have to very consciously find that. And when we do that, it's like we return to the water. Returning to the water, the metaphor is returning to or aligning with our purpose. So there's a few questions for you all. And at this point, I'd like to ask if you could secure a piece of paper and a pen. Now, I know you have computers, but I don't want you to write on the computer on your tree. I want you to get a pen. Now, what is this pen? It's the most powerful of human tools ever invented. Because from this pen, you can manifest what you want in your life. It's like a magic wand. There are thoughts, desires, interests we may have, but how do we bring them into our lives? With the pen. Now, I ask you to write with a pen on a piece of paper because, as Vivon said, the pen is mightier than the sword. Well done, sir. I told you these guys are statespeople. So there's a visceral feeling when you write things by hand on paper, more of a connection to your brain. Plus, you're less likely to get distracted because when you have a screen in front of you, and I don't say don't ever write on a screen, that would be ludicrous in today's day of technology and our dependence on screen. However, for your own purposes in meditating on your constitution, use a pen. Personally, I use Pentel RSVP BK90 fine tip black ink. I also like to use a big pad. There are several ones I use. I use a legal pad, which I don't have with me. Arav, do you have a legal pad with you? They're yellow and they're 8.5
Not
by
at the moment.
okay, 8.5 by 13. It gives a little extra space. Vivon has a pad, but it's 8.5 by 11, not an 8.5 by 13. It's just a little bit longer. Well, look, Madhuri Saki's thinking about becoming an attorney now. That's a legal pad. Hold it up, Madhuri Saki. Now, see, it's a little longer. That's 8.5 by 13, and it's yellow. That's a legal pad. I recommend that. I also recommend this, Bien Fang. It's a mixed media. It's got really big pages, and there's a lot you can write on it. You can also use colored pens. It absorbs nicely. It doesn't bleed through to the other side. It's for thinking on paper and putting your ideas down. So you need a little space, not little scraps of paper, not some small notebook, but something substantial. And there's some psychological advantage to the legal pad because it gives you a sense of you got more you can put down on one page. So do all of you right now have a pen and a piece of paper, even if you don't have a legal pad or whatever I said? Do you have your favorite pen? Anybody have a favorite pen they use? Okay. Sia, what do you like?
Um, there's this, I don't remember the exact one, but there's a Pilot pen. It's not the G2, but all Pilot pens are really good.
Yeah, I just got a box the other day, and I don't mean to be unfaithful to the Pentel company, but I got these. Actually, these are unis, uni ball rollers. It's a little bit smaller than this pen. It's easier for me to travel with. So I have traveling pen and I have a home pen. I like pens that don't leak too because it's really a bummer when you look down and all of a sudden there's ink coming out. Okay. And paper, you got paper. So this is your place where you can create and you can start designing your own constitution for your future. And there's a few questions you can ask yourself. Now, don't start writing yet, but some of the questions that go into the foundational stages of making your constitution are, what do you value? Another one is, what are your priorities? Another is, what's the best investment of your attention in your life? And what feels deeply right, even if challenging. But the main two for now, and I'm going to add one more that we can go into in the next Youth Jam. The first thing I'd like you to try is to write 3 values that you consider very important in your life. Now, if you can look up online Chaitanya Nityanam, Brene Brown, she has a list of values. And that way you can kind of take a look at what we mean by values and you get an idea. They have to, like, I'll give you some samples. Truthfulness is a value, right? And humility, you might value humility or authenticity. Anushree, name a few more values.
Truthfulness, honest, what else?
Compassion. That's not what you put up. Brene Brown asked for specific that you has for a list of values. Just tell what you want. Go ahead, Anushree, one more. There it is.
Generosity could be one.
Yvonne posted it in the chat box. See if you can put that up on the screen. What did you say, Anushree?
Generosity.
Yeah, definitely a value, right? Anyway, we have the link. You can look at it. There's accountability, altruism, kindness, self-respect, serenity. These are examples of values. Now, don't try to get them all right now, but what I would like you to do is to take the next minute and a half and then write down 3 that, and this is not final. It's just to get the pump primed. Put down 3 things, values that you'd like to work on in your life. Like, say, if it's truthfulness, that would be something you put down, and that would be an idea that you'd want to work on. So I'm going to start the clock, and you can start going for it.
Battery 100%. Connected to.
Get ready. On your mark, get set, go. You got a minute and a half. Just write down 3 values that appeal to you. Don't make them final. It's just to get started. That was a minute and a half. Just want to, you don't have to say what you put. You can if you want, but I just like to hear what it felt like to look at the list of values. And there are other lists. You can look at Bhagavad Gita and the Divine and Demoniac. You can look in different places, things that Krishna said he values in devotees. So this isn't an exhaustive list. It was just something to get us going. But how did it feel to look at values and write them on paper? We'll take 3 people giving 3 sentences. And somebody who hasn't spoken yet. Arya.
It felt calming.
Calming, that's nice. I like that. Yeah, okay. Let's hear from two more, Manya and Manhar. Go ahead, Manya.
It felt uplifting because I realized all of the values were positive and a way in which that we can grow. Um,
Yeah, it's like they're up for grabs, right? Like, why didn't I think of that before? And when you start, whenever I read Divaniac section of Bhagavad Gita, I hear the divine qualities, I think, wow, it's soothing, it's calming to hear them because you feel like, wow, that's something I could work on. Manhar, let's hear what it felt like for you.
Like for me, it felt like my mind was like drawn to one place, so it wasn't getting distracted by anything when I was like writing them down.
Yeah, maybe that's what others meant by being calming and feeling
Yeah.
uplifting and things like that. That's a nice description. It is very meditative. Okay,
Yeah.
now we're going to do one more exercise, and we're going to come back to these in a future show. And here's the next list I want you to make. It's a separate list, and that's your priorities. Now, this is something we can work on over the next several weeks. We want to get a lot of this together before the new year. And so, priorities. Here's a way to describe it. What is most important to you in your life? Which things are most important to you? And you may have a long list, but for now, and you don't have to get it exactly that we want. Again, this is just to get a start. Put down 3 things that you think are most important to you in your life. Okay, I'll give you a minute and a half starting right now. Okay. Now, does anybody want to share one of your priorities? Or is that if it's too personal, you don't have to, but if you came up with something, and again, this is not the be all and end all, we're going to adjust all these as we go along, but just if you wrote down something and you want to share, we'll take 3 people, 3 sentences each part, then Arav, then Arya.
So one of my priorities that I put down was that finishing my duty as a student, or like
Finishing what?
like doing my duty as a student. So like doing my schoolwork and that.
Schoolwork.
I said
Okay,
that.
good. That's an example of priority, prioritizing your studies. Okay, Arav, what's one?
Reading the scriptures is a good priority. Reading Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay, very nice. And Arya?
One of mine was education.
And your education. Okay, sounds good. And so this example of writing down priorities. Now, just to give you a little fine tuning on it, you could even be more specific if you wanted, but it's nice categories. Say, I prioritize my studies, I prioritize my reading of Shastra, but then you might say, it might be even more specific, like Srimad Bhagavatam or all of Prabhupada's books or something like that. My studies in what, am I prioritizing? It's up to you. You can fine tune it a little bit more. And next time, we're going to go a little bit more into this priority list. But what your homework is, if you feel up for it, if you do find it uplifting and you feel this is calming and helps keep your mind uh, in a progressive mode, try this for homework and we can share together next time of expanding these two lists that you have. Now, I'll tell you my own personal experience in writing my priorities a while back is it made me think a lot about what's important to me in my life. And I ended up moving things around. As I put them down, I listed everything without trying to put it in order. And then later, when I was walking or talking, I'd think, oh, this one should go a little higher. And it's a lot of fun to try to put them in order. But for now, just try to list as many as you can. And if you feel like arranging them in a hierarchy, like this is the topmost thing, then next to that, under that is this, that. Do that for your priorities. And also put 10 values that you think are just 10, and then try to list priorities. I would say don't do more than 10 for now. Like try to come up a list with 10. That's something you can work on. You can also make it smaller as we go forward. And then that's when we come back next week. And again, it's not final yet. It's just an exercise for you to do. Okay? And then next time, I'm going to talk about two things, which is one, setting some goals, especially for coming into the new year, because that helps when we have our priorities and our values written down. Setting goals becomes really fun because they're really practical, very specific things you can talk about and make them time bound. And when you do it before the new year comes, it gives you this kind of expectancy for the new year that this is what I'm going to work on. So it's really good exercise. And then I'll also talk next week about how to organize a lot of this information that you're working on as your homework into the form of a constitution that you can finish at your leisure, where we can all do it together. And then it's a document that you can keep and refer to, and then also make amendments to as we go forward. Does anybody have any questions before I go? And I'm dropping off early. It's not over yet. You're going to go on and read and do other kinds of stuff, but I have to go to a program tonight. Yes, Arif?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I just had a question about goals like during the new year. So when we write down our goals for the new year, does it make our mind think that we'll work towards accomplishing that goal during the year, or is that just a standard to set before the year starts?
Yeah, you can write goals for the new year. That's because we're coming up on it pretty quickly. But next time I'll talk about goal setting, the way to frame the goals that you write. For instance, I recommend writing them in the present tense, as if it's already occurred, it's already in your life. And then I'll also talk about different time frames, which is a 1-year goal, a 5-year goal, a 30-day goal, 5-day goal, 1-day goal, 1-minute goals. They're different time frames. And it's a lot of fun to play with those because it can be very motivating. So I'll go into that in more detail. But yes, just as an example, this is one of my books I keep a lot of my information in. These are my goals for 2025. I have them all written in the back of my notebook. And it keeps me motivated because I know the end of the year is coming up and I have to finish these before 2025 is over. So yeah, it really helps. Okay, we have Keshav. You had a question, and that'll be the last one, and then I got to go.
Hey, Krishna Maharaj. So my question is that can this constitution just be like for like this 2026, because we might like change our values and priorities by 2027. So is this just going to be is it just kind of a
Yes,
tentative
it's fairly fluid. You will find when you think about priorities and you think about values that you're going to have some of them that are going to stick around probably throughout your life. But absolutely, it can be adjusted any which way. It's a fluid document that you can work on. It's for you, and it's to just have a sense of which direction you're going, what's most important to you in your life, because most people never think about it. They just do what's in front of them, and there's always something more you have to do to finish before you really get time for yourself to think about what's most important to you in your life. So that's why it's a good thing. It's self-examination and being self-directing in your life. Well, if you'll excuse me, sorry for skipping out on you early, but I got to go to the next program, and I will see you guys next time. Work on this, because that way we'll have an interesting conversation. I'm going to work on it too. I'm going to pull out all my old documents that I wrote on, and I'm going to rethink them, and so I'll have something to discuss too. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Gaura, if you so desire, please bless everybody 1,000,000 times over who joined Youth Jam today. Everyone who forgot to join Youth Jam, those who slept through it, may they all be blessed by your mercy so they can always chant Hare Krishna and go back to Godhead. Om Tat Sat. See you soon, and thank you very much, Chaitanya Nitai Nam Prabhu, for keeping the lights on. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande Haribo.
Thank you so much to Maharaj. He just left, but
Hare Krishna.
everyone, we'll still continue the program until 4:30. So the next item in our program, as usual, we'll be reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita for a little bit, because it's always really nice to hear about Prabhupada's journey, especially when he got to the West, which is the section where we're happening upon right now. So if we get a couple of volunteers, as usual, if you're interested in reading, it would be great. And we can hear from Srila Prabhupada
Which
Lilamrita.
chapter?
With further ado, let me get the screen up.
Which chapter are we reading from?
We are reading chapter 15. I'll put it up on the screen here.
Oh, great.
All right, let's get a few volunteers if we can. We can read about 3 paragraphs each. All right, I'll start and then I'll hand it off to Parth afterward. Harvey Cohen came often to room 501 to visit the Swami, who had so impressed him at Ananda Ashram. Harvey, the room he occupied was a tiny office in the back of the Yoga Society in Uptown Manhattan. I began to go there regularly, and we sat facing each other on the floor in this little office with his typewriter and a new tape recorder on top of 2 suitcases. And there was a box of books he had brought from India and a color reproduction of dancing figures, which he had looked at often. I told Swami Bhaktivedanta that he was an artist, that I was an artist, and he asked me to please paint the picture of the dancers, which he explained was of Lord Chaitanya and his disciples. The painting was called Sankirtan. Whenever I came to visit him, Swami would always be happy to see me. I told him about myself, and we chanted Hare Krishna together in this room many nights that winter. I would get the train uptown from my apartment to go see him. January 11th, 1966. Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri died of a heart attack while visiting Russia. The Prime Minister had been a personal acquaintance of Srila Prabhupada's in India and an admirer of his Srimad Bhagavatam translation. He had been scheduled to visit America, and Prabhupada had expected to obtain a personal sanction from him for the release of funds from India. His untimely death was a great upset in Srila Prabhupada's plans to purchase the building at 143 West 72nd Street. The realtors had shown him the building, and he had already mentally designed the interior for deity worship and distribution of prasadam. The money was to come from India, and Prime Minister Shastri was to give personal sanction for the release of the funds. But suddenly that was all changed. January 14th, Prabhupada decided to write to the owner of the building, Mr. A.M. Hartman. He explained how his plans had been upset, and he posed a new plan.
Now the Prime Minister, Mr. Lal Bahadur Shastri, is suddenly dead. I'm greatly perplexed, as there is no great difficulty for getting money from India. I'm requesting you to allow me to use the place for International Institution for God Consciousness, at least for some time. The house is lying vacant for so many days without any use. I learned it that you are paying the taxes, insurance, and other charges for the house. Although you have no income from there, if you, however, allow this place for this public institution, you shall at least save the taxes and other charges which you are paying now for nothing. If I can start the institution immediately, certainly I shall be able to get sympathy locally, and in that case I may not be required to get money from India. I am also requesting that you, Honor, become one of the directors of this public institution, because you will give a place to start the institution. Hartman, Hartman wasn't interested. On the day, same day, he wrote Mr. Hartman Prabhupada received a letter from Sir Padmanabh Singhania, the director of very large JKR organization in India. Prabhupada had written Sir Padmanabh for financial support, and his reply gave him a hope. Not only was the Singhania family fabulously wealthy, but its members were devotees of Lord Krishna.
My dear Swamiji, I have gone through your letter. I am very glad to note your idea of erecting a Sri Radha Krishna temple in New York. I think the proposal is a good one, but the following are very are the difficulties. We have got to send a foreign exchange for building the temple, for which the government sanction is required. Without the government sanction, no money can be sent abroad. If the government of India agrees, then one can think of erecting the temple in New York. I doubt whether, with a small amount of 7 lakh rupees, a temple can be built in New York. I meant to carry out a nice construction with Indian type of architecture to get a temple completed in Indian type. These are the two main difficulties, otherwise, your idea is good. Srila Prabhupada and Mr. Singhania had a basic disagreement. A magnificent Indian temple in New York would cost many millions of dollars to construct. Prabhupada knew, of course, that if Padamant Singhania wanted, he could provide millions of dollars. But then how would he get so much money out of India? Prabhupada therefore again suggested that they only spend 7 lakhs. After purchasing the house, he wrote, we can build another story on top of it, with a temple dome, chakra, etc. Prabhupada has his own line of reasoning. Lord Dwarkadish exhibit. Oh, sorry.
Wait, where did they stop? Oh, okay. Lord Dwarkadish exhibited his opulence at Dwarka with 16,000 queens, and it is understood that he built a palace for each and every queen, and the palaces were made with jewels and stones, so that there was no necessity for artificial light in the palaces. So your conception of building a temple of Lord Krishna is in opulence, but we are residents of Vrindavan, and Vrindavan has no palaces like your Dwarka. Vrindavan is full of forests and cows on the bank of the Jamuna. Lord Krishna is in his childhood played the part of a coward boy without any royal opulence, as you people, the inhabitants of Dwarka, are accustomed. So when the Dwarka Walas meet the Vrindavan Walas, there may be a via media, which would serve Padma Pat Dwarka like wealth and Srila Prabhupada's Vrindavan like devotion. Lord Krishna, the Lord of both Vrindavan and Dwarka, could be properly worshipped. January 21st, he received Bon Maharaj's reply. 2 weeks before, Prabhupada had written to his godbrother, the director of the Institute of Oriental Philosophy in Vrindavan, that he had found a place for a temple in New York and that he wanted to install deities of Radha and Krishna. In his reply, Bon Maharaj quoted price estimates for 14-inch brass deities of Radha Krishna, but he also warned that to begin deity worship would be a heavy responsibility. Srila Prabhupada responded, I think that after the temple has started, some men, even from America, may be available, as I see they have at the Ramakrishna Mission as well as in so many yoga societies. So I'm trying to open a temple here because Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted it.
Prabhupada also requested Bon Maharaja's assistance in getting the government to sanction release of the money he felt Pampat Singhania would donate. He mentioned that he had carried on an extensive personal correspondence with the Vice President of India, Dr. Radhakrishnan, who is also known to Bon Maharaja. Tell him that it is not an ordinary temple of worship, but an international institution for God consciousness based on the Srimad Bhagavatam. January 22nd. While Srila Prabhupada prayed to receive Radhakrishna in New York, a snowstorm hit the city. That morning, Srila Prabhupada, who had perhaps never before seen snow, woke and thought that someone had whitewashed the side of the building next door. Not until he went outside did he discover that it was snow. The temperature was 10 degrees. The city went into a state of emergency, but Prabhupada continued his daily walks. Now he had to walk through heavy snow, only a thin dhoti beneath his overcoat, his head covered with his Swami hat. The main roads were cleared, but many of the sidewalks were covered with snow. Along the strip of park dividing Broadway, the gusting winds piled snowbanks to shoulder height and buried the benches. The Broadway kiosks, plastered with layers of posters and notices, were now plastered with additional layers of snow and ice. But despite the weather, New Yorkers still walked their dogs, their pets now wearing raincoats and mackinaws. Such pampering by American dog owners left Prabhupada with a feeling of surprised amusement. As he approached West End Avenue, he found the doorman blowing whistles to signal taxis as usual, but also scattering salt to melt the ice and create safe sidewalks in front of the buildings. In Riverside Park, the benches, pathways, and trees were glazed with ice and gave off a shimmering reflection from the sky. In the news, selective service officials announced the first substantial increase in the draft since the Korean War. A month-long peace ended with the U.S. Air Force bombing North Vietnam. The New York transit strike ended after 3 weeks, and the transit labor leader died in jail of a heart attack.
January 30th. The East Coast was hit by a severe blizzard. 7 inches of snow fell on the city, with winds up to 50 miles an hour. The city of New York offered warm rooms and meals for people living in tenements without heat. JFK Airport was closed, as were train lines and roadways into the city. For the second time within 8 days, a state of emergency was declared because of snow. As a lone individual, Srila Prabhupada could not do anything about the snow emergency or the international warfare. He saw these as mere symptoms of the age of Kali. Always there would be misery in the material world. But if he could bring Radha and Krishna to a building in New York, nothing was impossible for the Supreme Lord. Even in the midst of Kali Yuga, a golden age could appear, and people could get relief. If Americans could take to Krishna consciousness, the whole world would follow. Seeing through the eyes of scriptures, Srila Prabhupada pushed on through the blizzard and pursued the thin trail for support of his Krishna consciousness mission. February 4th. He wrote again to Tirtha Maharaj, who had agreed to try for the government sanction. if he first received written confirmation for a responsible donor pledging the funds for a temple. Prabhupada informed him that the donor would be Sri Padmat Singhania, and he enclosed Mr. Singhania's favorable letter of the 14th. Prabhupada reminded his godbrother.
Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta wanted such temples in foreign cities like in New York, London, Turkey, etc. And I had personal talks with him when I met him at Ulta Danga in 1922. Now here is a chance for me to carry out his transcendental order. I am just seeking your favor and mercy in taking this attempt successful. February 5th. Discouragement came to the plans Srila Prabhupada had formed around the promise of supporting by Padampat Singhania. The Dwarka Vala wrote to express his dissatisfaction with the 72nd Street building. I'm afraid that I cannot agree with their suggestion that you should try to buy a small house and erect something on top of it. Unfortunately, such a kind proposal will not suit me. The temple must be a small one, but it must be constructed properly. I quite agree that you cannot spend a lot of money at present, but within the amount the government may sanction, you should build something according to the architecture of Indian temples. Then only we will be able to create some impression on the American people. This is all I can write to you in this connection. I'm very grateful to you for taking the trouble of writing me. Prabhupada did not take this letter as final. He maintained hope that Sir Padapad Singhania would still give money for the temple, if only the transfer of money could be arranged. He continued writing his godbrothers and other devotees, asking them to secure the government sanction. He maintained some aspirations, even though his sole prospective donor had rejected the scheme of a chakra and dome atop a conventional two-story building.
February 15th. He moved from room 501 downstairs 2 floors to a room all his own. I have changed my room to room 307 in the same building as above mentioned for better air and light. It is on the roadside junction of 2 roads, the Columbus Avenue and 72th Street. According to Dr. Mishra, Prabhupada moved in order to have his own place independent on the Mishra Yoga Society. February 16th. Prabhupada wrote to the proprietors of the Universal Book House of Bombay, giving some hints for selling his Srimad Bhagavatam in the Bombay area. He explained that he was trying to establish a Radha Krishna temple at a big industrialist of India has promised to pay for the cost. Since it seemed that he might stay in the United States for many more days, he wanted the book house to take increased charge of selling his books throughout India. They were his agent for selling his books in Maharashtra, but now he recommended they take the responsibility in all provinces and introduce his books in colleges and universities throughout India. He also requested that they credit his bank account there for the book sold out so far. February 26. Mr. A. P. Dwarkar of the Universal Book House replied, I cannot give you very happy news on the progress of the sale of Srimad Bhagavatam because the subject is rigorous and only a small section of society may personally be interested in these books. We tried to push them through some booksellers to Nagpur, Ahmedabad, Pune, etc. But regret to inform you that after some time these booksellers returned to the books for want of response. As such, we are not only enthusiastic to agree to your proposal of taking up sales for all India, but we were just thinking of requesting you to nominate some other people in our place to represent your sale program in Maharashtra. So far, they had only 6 sets of his books, for which they were about to transfer Rs. 172 to his account. This was hardly encouraging to the author. Again, India was not interested, even in the land of religion. Religious subjects were only for a small section of society. March 4. Another reverse. On February 8th, Srila Prabhupada had written to India's new Prime Minister Indira Gandhi requesting her to sanction the release of money from India. A reply dated February 25, New Delhi, came from the Prime Minister's official secretary, Mr. L.K. Bhatt. Dear Swamiji, the Prime Minister has seen your letter of February 8, 1966. He appreciates the spirit which promoted you to carry the spiritual message of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to other countries. Owing to the critical foreign exchange situation which the country is facing, it is greatly regretted that it will be not possible to assist you from here in your plan to set up a Radha Krishna temple.
But Prabhupada had other hopes. After writing to the Prime Minister, he had again written to Tirtha Maharaja, asking him to request Dr. Radhakrishnan to persuade the government to sanction the release of funds. He waited for 1 month, no answer. Apparently, his godbrothers had felt little obligation towards preaching in America. He had written that he needed encouragement from them to continue in America because it was so expensive. He had explained that he was spending the equivalent of 1,000 rupees a month. As such, I am counting every day to receive your favorable replies. But there was no reply. March 18th, he wrote again to Sir Padampat Singhania, requesting him to send a man from India to supervise work on a temple on the temple in New York, as Mr. Singhania had previously suggested. There is no record of any reply to this request. Prabhupada wrote again to Sumati Morarji, requesting her to please send him a mridanga to accompany his chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He also requested her that in the future, when he would send many men from India, she obliged by giving them free passage on Scindia steamship lines. No reply. As his financial situation became more urgent and his hopes more strained, his support from India withdrew in silence. His unanswered correspondence was itself a kind of message, loud and clear. We cannot help you. Although no one encouraged him, Srila Prabhupada trusted the order of his spiritual master and the will of Krishna. The word from the Prime Minister regarding the government sanction had been a definite no, but he had received another extension of his visa. Now, his last hope was Sir Padampat Singhania. Prabhupada knew that he was so influential a man in India that if he wanted, he could send the money. He was Prabhupada's final hope. April 2nd. Mr. Singhania did not reply personally. He had his secretary, Mr. Ishwarya Iyer, to write to Prabhupada, though thoroughly discouraging his last hopes for purchasing a building in New York. I regret to write that Sir Padampatji is not interested in the scheme of building a Radhakrishna temple in New York at present. In regard to the inquiry contained in the last paragraph of your letter, Sir Padampadji duly received your books of Srimad Bhagavatam from your Delhi office. Yours faithfully.
Seeing him from a distance, a tiny figure walking Manhattan's streets and avenues among many other tiny figures, a foreigner whose visa had almost run out, we come upon only the external appearance of Srila Prabhupada. These days of struggle were real enough and very difficult, but his transcendental consciousness was always predominant. He was not living in Manhattan consciousness, but he was absorbed in dependence upon Krishna. Just as when, on the Jaladuta, he had suffered his heart attacks, his reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita had supplied him the nectarine of life. Shriyan, go ahead.
He had already succeeded. Certainly he wanted to provide Radha and Krishna temple in New York, but his success was that he was remembering Krishna, even in New York City in the winter of 1965-66, whether the world recognized him or not. Not a day went by when he did not work on Krishna's book, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and not a day went by when he did not offer food to Krishna and speak on Krishna's philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, "For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost to him, and he is never lost to me." And Krishna assures his pure devotees that my devotee will never be vanquished. And there was never any doubt about this for Prabhupada. The only question was that whether Americans would take notice of a pure devotee in their midst. At this point, it seemed that no one was going to take him seriously.
Thank you so much, Shriyan, and everyone else who read. Vivan, Parth, Nitai, Mayuri, probably missing someone.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for letting us read Prabhuji and giving some inspiration to our hearts about how Srila Prabhupada went through all of his hardships, but then still, because of his Guru Maharaj's instructions, and did not just go back to India, even though he was financially struggling, physically struggling, and so much more.
Thank you so much for that beautiful realization and reflection, Parth. It's really important that we recognize what Prabhupada went through. And I mean, we always say this, but it's really like no matter how much we think about it, it's not enough because of how much, truly how much work and effort and sacrifice went into it on Prabhupada's part. So yeah, it's always inspiring to read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. And as Parth got us started, we can share a lot of realizations and just things we learn or appreciate from this chapter and from every chapter of this book. It's really amazing how much detail went into the entire descriptions of his experience in America and, of course, later in other countries as well. Would anyone like to continue this discussion and share something they liked or picked up or learned? Yes, Manya?
Hare Krishna. Something that caught me is when it was saying that Prabhupada didn't have like Manhattan consciousness. He had like a spiritual consciousness. And I was like, wow, that's such a nice mood. And I think he really exemplified that you can be in any place and have a different consciousness and the spiritual consciousness, and that can make all the difference. So I feel like it's really easy to judge a pure devotee's actions or be confused by it, but it was like a reminder that they're on a spiritual plane. So I really like that.
Thank you, Manya. That was, yeah, I really like that point that was made toward the end of the chapter. It's just no matter where he is, it's not that Prabhupada identified with the body or his surroundings at all. He was just completely absorbed in his work and his service. So it was really amazing to read that point made explicitly. Arya?
I liked when Prabhupada was walking in the heavy snow, but he was still determined to walk in that snow. So we should be like that. Whatever obstacle comes with you, you should be determined to fight it.
What a great point. Thank you, Arya. Yeah, I also realized, I mean, toward the later half of this chapter, it's almost like a running journal of these dates, February or January, February, and March. I think we're on March. Oh no, there was April as well. But it's just this running journal of entries of Prabhupada facing one obstacle after another. And toward the end, also, we heard that he was reaching out to these people and, there was no answer. But still, he kept trying. So that's, as Arya said, the main point that we should take is the determination. Vaisheshik Maharaj also always likes to point out determination is such an important quality to take up in anything we do because otherwise it doesn't show that we're sincere or committed to a certain goal. So determination is really important. And I also just having no answer one after another after reaching out to so many people or even reaching out to the same person multiple times, I feel in our experience, at least for me, I'm applying to different programs and internships and jobs, and so many people can also relate. But uh, it's just if we get one answer or one no answer, or maybe a rejection, after a couple of tries, we'll kind of just fall off and give up because we lose the hope. At least I do. But it's a little hard to remember, but it's very important to remember this point of, as Arya made again, never stopping and just working through that. So thank you again, Arya, for bringing it up. Parth?
So to add on to your point, that you're talking about that when a person like when Srila Prabhupada actually was getting no reply, it really made me wonder that why didn't why didn't Srila Prabhupada not just give up and go back to India? But then again, Srila Prabhupada is here because of his instruction from his Guru Maharaj. And with that, he knows that sometime it will work because he was destined to be in this area, in this place. So Srila Prabhupada knows that he just needs to do the best that he can do and leave the rest up to Krishna because Krishna will take over, and no matter if anything happens or doesn't happen, at least he tried his best and spread the most uh, he spread Krishna consciousness the in America.
Yeah, nice point. I think it's really important to, again, pick up all these lessons, and they're very uh, important, but also generally applicable lessons in everything that we do. So I'm really happy that a lot of people are pointing out these very valuable points and lessons. Does anyone have anything else to share just in general about how the week's going, how the month is going? I know it's almost winter break for a lot of people who are in school, and I know some people are coming on the yatra as well with Maharaj. But how is how is life in general? How is your sadhana and service, and how are these things going? Anyone want to open up to the excited for yatra? Arav, yes, Parth.
So one thing I wanted to share that is that with the presentations that Mirage is giving, having a plan for 2026 and all the different points, it's really helping me to have determination going into 2026 because I'm now able to have a streamlined process that I'm basically able to follow and know that, okay, I know what to do and I'm going to be very productive this year than compared to other years that I wasn't productive. And with that, I've also made a plan for myself that every day I'm going to try to chant at least 2 rounds just to get myself started. And then if I wanted to amend my constitution and go deeper, I could say 3 rounds, 4 rounds, and so on.
Wow, that's a really serious goal and or set of goals to make because of how important they are to spiritual life and also just in general self-discipline. Earlier when we were making the list of values that we uh, thought appealed to us from that list of values that we put up on the screen, I picked up self-discipline because it's a really important one that I've been able to develop a little bit, but I still need to develop a lot because of just how much there is to do that remains to be done, like to put it lightly, because of how much value all these activities, spiritual activities or things for school or work, how much they add to our life and how much we can also absorb from that. So these activities, such as even chanting and reading, as also Arav said earlier when Marge was there, being able to balance our life with scriptures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, on a daily basis. And it's also helpful to do Chad as we did in the beginning of the program. All these things contribute to a much more happier, balanced life. So it's really inspiring as well to see everyone doing this. Any other points that we liked from any of this program that we did? We did Chad. We looked at a purport of the verse as well, 11.2.
Well, in the Bhagavad Gita 11.2, it really talked about Krishna's appearance in general. Like the translation says, O lotus-eyed one, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity and have realized their inexhaustible glories. So that means that means Arjuna is like now realizing Krishna's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it really helps us to understand how Krishna looks in general.
Thank you, Parth. Arav?
Right, Hare Krishna. Right there, I was just thinking. We were reading the Bhagavad Gita, and I was thinking, where did Krishna say the disappearance and the appearance of all living entities to Arjuna? But Arjuna's just picked that up along the way because he's such a good listener to Lord Krishna, and he's got into this consciousness from the 9th and 10th chapter, realizing Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then now he's come into a good consciousness where Krishna can reveal himself to Arjuna.
It really speaks to the significance of each and every chapter, doesn't it? Because it feels like, some are very saturated with very important information, and others are kind of, I don't know, a little less. But reading it all in a sequence, especially as we've been doing it as part of this Chad program, which is we've done chapters 7, 8, 9, 10, and now 11. We've done 12 in the past as well, but we'll probably go back to that. But especially these middle 6 chapters, they're full of information that are just so important, and it's the center point of all the Krishna consciousness philosophy. And yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Arif. We also had that experience earlier this week when Gita Jayanti. If anyone did the whole recitation of the Bhagavad Gita, that's one of the few times we can do that. Of course, there are some people who do it every day. I don't, but there are those valuable things that we can pick up only when we read everything as part of a sequence. So I really picked up a lot, especially on this past Gita Jayanti when we were able to read all 18 chapters. It felt like a real flow. Well, since we're almost out of time and if we don't have anything else to share, we can end by making a prayer to Srila Prabhupada. Dear Srila Prabhupada, if you so desire, please let us absorb the most important parts of your books, which describe the importance of Krishna consciousness, so we be able to apply everything to our spiritual lives. Thank you for considering this request. And Tat Sat. If you agree with this prayer in whole or in part, please unmute and say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Thank you for joining, everyone. Really nice to see you, and we'll see you back next week at 3 p.m. PST and 6 p.m. Eastern. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.